It started like any other arraignment. The courtroom was stiff with silence, filled with lawyers shuffling papers, defendants in orange jumpsuits, and guards who looked bored out of their minds. It was 8:47 a.m. when the door creaked open and she walked in. Celeste Monroe, black, 34, calm. She wore a charcoal gray suit creased to perfection. No jewelry, no makeup, no entourage. Just a leather case tucked under her arm and a small, polite smile. Her locks were pinned neatly, cascading down her back like a waterfall of dignity. And yet, something shifted when she stepped past the threshold. Deputy Ross Maynard, white, bulky, buzz-cut, the type who flexed his authority like a muscle, locked eyes with her and scowled. Not because she did anything, but because she existed, because she didn't flinch. She was supposed to. He stood from his post, cracked his knuckles, and blocked her path. "You here for someone?" he asked. Celeste's eyes didn't blink. "I'm expected." Ross didn't move. He glanced down at her briefcase like it was a concealed weapon. "ID," he demanded. She handed it over. He stared longer than necessary. His jaw tightened. Something in his eyes flickered. Recognition, maybe, or resentment. But he didn't hand the badge back. "You can wait outside," he said. Celeste didn't raise her voice. "I'm on the docket. Doesn't matter. Step outside until you're called." People were watching now. A woman in the gallery leaned forward. A clerk stopped typing. Judge Henley hadn't even entered yet, but the room had already picked its villain. Celeste turned slightly. "Is there a problem, Deputy?" Ross's smile was sharp. "There is now." Then, without warning, he reached forward and grabbed her arm. The room gasped. Celeste didn't resist. She didn't yell. She simply allowed the movement, like she'd seen this before, too many times. Ross pulled her aside roughly, pushing her against the sidewall, uncuffed her briefcase, and opened it. Inside, papers, legal briefs, a pen, a pair of glasses. But Ross wasn't done. He pulled out his radio. "We've got a breach. Unknown individual carrying unauthorized legal materials. Possible impersonation." The air snapped. A young black bailiff, Darnell, started to approach but stopped when Ross threw him a glare. Nobody interfered, not even when Ross grabbed the pins from Celeste's hair and yanked hard. Her locks came undone. Then something unspeakable. From his belt, Ross pulled out a pair of scissors. The courtroom didn't move. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He just started cutting. One strand at a time. Soft thuds of thick, coiled hair hitting the courtroom floor. No one said a word. Not the clerk, not the public defenders, not even the security camera, blinking silently from the ceiling. Celeste's eyes stared forward. Still no screaming, no crying, just silence that felt like thunder. She stood as if made of stone, as if this wasn't new, as if this wasn't the first time someone tried to humiliate her publicly. Ross leaned closer, breath sour with confidence. "Don't lie next time," he sneered. "This court doesn't need posers." That was the moment Judge Henley walked in. He paused at the scene but said nothing. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't question the scissors or the hair on the ground. He simply adjusted his robe and said, "Next case." Celeste was escorted out. No charges, no defense, no record. Just silence. But outside, on the courthouse steps, something shifted. Darnell, young, wide-eyed, followed her out. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't know." Celeste turned. She finally spoke. "Don't be sorry," she said, straightening her suit with slow grace. "Just remember." He nodded, then watched her walk away, head high, shoulders back, into the sunlight. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She just walked, and the courtroom would never forget the sound of her hair hitting that floor. But they had no idea. They had no idea who she really was. And that mistake would cost them everything. The footage didn't make the news. No articles, no hashtags, no outrage. Just a quiet erasure. The security cam file from courtroom B12? Corrupted, according to the admin. The bailiff's report? Never filed. The judge's record? Sealed before it even began. But Darnell hadn't forgotten. He watched the scissors cut through those locks in silence, teeth clenched, fists tight. He had wanted to speak, to scream, but he was new, temporary hire, no benefits, no backup. He thought about it all night. The next morning, he clocked in early and walked the halls like a ghost. Everyone moved like nothing happened, as if trauma could be vacuumed off marble floors. Then around 9 o'clock a.m., a woman walked in through the main entrance. Not Celeste. This one was older, heavier, wearing a worn-out church dress and clutching a manila envelope like it held her life. "Excuse me," she said to the receptionist. "I was told to submit these appeal papers here." The clerk glanced up, rolled her eyes. "You need an attorney to file that. You people can't just walk in here." That word again. You people. Darnell's body froze. The same tone, the same disdain. He took a step forward. The woman looked confused. "I'm sorry, my son's been in jail for 6 months without trial. He probably deserved it," the clerk muttered, already looking back at her screen. That's when Darnell spoke. "Miss," he said, stepping up, "let me help you." The woman blinked. Darnell took the envelope from her, gave the clerk a look that said, "Don't," and marched it down to the filings room himself. It wasn't his job, but neither was watching someone get humiliated again. Not today. Not after Celeste. Meanwhile, inside courtroom B12, Deputy Ross was thriving. He strutted through the benches like a king surveying his kingdom. Every nod from Judge Henley was fuel. Every ignored complaint, a green light. No one questioned him, and he liked it that way. "Court's in session," the clerk called out. The next defendant stepped forward. Young, skinny, Latino, shaky hands, shirt wrinkled, clearly terrified. Ross smirked. "You got ID, son?" The kid nodded quickly, pulling out a crumpled card. Ross snatched it. "This expired 2 months ago. That's a federal offense in here, you know." The kid's eyes widened. I didn't know." Ross leaned in. "Of course you didn't. You people never read the signs." The courtroom flinched. Judge Henley didn't react. Darnell was watching again. From the back. He didn't know the kid, didn't know the case, but he knew that line, that tone, that venom. Same poison, different dose. He pulled out his phone, started recording, didn't raise it. Just let it sit in his pocket, screen facing out. 1 minute, 2, 5. Every insult, every abuse of power. He saved it. Labeled the file, Courtroom B12, Pattern of Behavior. No one saw him. Not yet. That afternoon, Celeste returned. Not in a suit this time, in jeans, hoodie, no briefcase. Her hair was shorter now, trimmed back with care, but her eyes were the same. Sharp, watchful, calculating. She didn't walk through the front entrance. She walked in from the side, press badge in hand. Yes, press. Her credentials weren't fake. In fact, she had earned them years ago, back when she covered corruption cases in Detroit. Most people forgot or never knew. Because Celeste Monroe was many things. Attorney, journalist, federal contractor, and now observer. She took a seat in the back row. Didn't speak, didn't film. She just watched. Ross saw her. His smile faltered for half a second, then came back full force. He walked toward her. Loud steps, heavy posture. "You lost again, sweetheart?" he sneered. Celeste didn't blink, just observing. "You're not allowed in here without a case." She held up the badge. "Federal permit, public court. You know the law, right?" Ross's jaw twitched. "Don't get smart," he said. "I'm not," she replied, voice calm. "You'll know when I do." Then she turned away, dismissive, surgical. That cut deeper than any insult. Ross returned to his post, boiling. Something about her presence threatened him in a way he couldn't name. Because somewhere inside he knew she wasn't done. That evening, Darnell found her outside. By the fountain, same bench, same quiet. "You came back," he said. Celeste didn't look at him. "You recorded him?" He hesitated, then nodded. "I've seen him do worse," he added. "But no one ever... They're scared or complicit." Celeste finally turned. Her voice was soft but sharp. "Good. You're not the only one recording." She reached into her bag, pulled out a flash drive. "You're going to want to see what's on this," she said. And with that, she walked off into the night. Again. But this time, she didn't walk away from something. She was walking toward it. Toward the storm. 2 days later, the courtroom was packed. Not with lawyers, not with families. With silence. The kind that builds before a storm. Ross didn't notice it at first. He was too busy basking in the usual routine. Barking at defendants. Snapping orders at staff. swaggering past the rows like a man who owned the room. But something had shifted. The judge was late, and the new prosecutor? A no-show. That left Ross in charge. At least that's how he saw it. He strutted across the room, tapping his clipboard, tossing glances like daggers. Then she walked in. Celeste. Same hoodie, same jeans, same badge. But this time she wasn't alone. Behind her came three women. Older, poised, silent, each one holding a folder. Each one wearing a pin, Department of Justice. Ross stiffened, his mouth open, then shut. Back again, he barked at Celeste. She didn't answer. He turned to the others. You ladies lost or just sightseeing? One of them stepped forward. Agent Clarice Wynn, she said, flashing her ID. We're here for a courtroom observation, routine internal affairs audit. Ross paled. But nobody informed. Exactly, Clarice cut in. We like it that way. The gallery rustled. The clerk stopped typing. Darnell sat straighter at his post. Celeste took a seat near the front, folded her arms. Ross looked toward this judge's entrance. Still empty. He muttered something under his breath, then grabbed the mic. Defendant number 3427, Victor Salazar, stepped forward. A teen boy stood, 17, brown skin, shaky hands. Ross narrowed his eyes. Remove your hat. Victor hesitated. I said remove it. The boy pulled it off. Underneath was a thin layer of post-surgery bandages, a medical wrap from a recent scalp procedure. His ears were red from infection. Ross chuckled. What, you trying to smuggle something in there? The audience flinched. Even Clarice's brows arched. Victor murmured, Doctor said I need to keep it covered. I got stitches. Ross stepped forward. You think this is a hospital? Then again, just like before, he reached for his belt. Scissors. Victor backed away. No, please, I'm not. Celeste stood. Her voice sliced the air. Don't. Ross turned. Excuse me? You touch that boy, she said, rising fully now, and you'll find out exactly how much authority you never had. He snorted. Lady, you don't get to come in here and... But then Clarice stood too. This courtroom is under federal review, she said, voice steel. Deputy Maynard, sit down. Ross froze. I said sit. For the first time in 10 years, Ross sat. His eyes burned with fury, but his body obeyed. Victor was led back to his seat, intact. The room fell quiet again. Then the door behind the bench opened. Finally, Judge Henley emerged, but his steps were slower this time. His gaze was clouded. He sat, looked out across the courtroom, then locked eyes with Celeste. He knew, everyone did, but no one said it out loud. Henley cleared his throat. Proceed with docket. Celeste cut him off. She stepped forward and laid a folder on the desk. I request the immediate review of courtroom B12 conduct. Multiple violations, abuse of power, racial targeting, violation of ADA protections. The judge blinked. You have no standing. She does, Clarice said, stepping beside her. She filed under whistleblower protection and submitted federal documentation. Henley's voice wavered. That's highly irregular. But he didn't stop them, because he couldn't. Celeste pulled out the flash drive. This contains footage from your courtroom, she said. Unedited, unfiltered, from multiple angles. Clarice added, and it's already been sent to the department's ethics committee. Ross shot to his feet. This is harassment. This is a setup. Henley banged his gavel. Enough. Silence dropped like a hammer. Celeste turned to face the gallery. There's more, she said. She raised her voice, not angry, not loud, just clear. This isn't just about me, or him, or any single person this court has humiliated under the guise of order. She gestured to the crowd. It's about every person who walked through those doors expecting justice and found none. The gallery stirred. Some nodded. Some wept. Henley looked down at the folder, then back up at her. Who do you think you are? He whispered. Celeste stared at him, unblinking. Then she walked forward and pulled something else from her coat. A black robe, folded, crisp, sealed in plastic. She unwrapped it slowly, then laid it on the bench in front of him. The judge stared at it. What is this? He asked, voice cracking. Celeste looked him in the eye. Your replacement. The room didn't move. Not a breath, not a whisper. Even the air felt like it froze. The robe sat on the bench, black, heavy, shimmering under the court lights. Judge Henley stared at it like it might catch fire. What is this? He asked again, quieter this time. Celeste didn't blink. You've presided over this court for 19 years, she said. You've allowed abuse, encouraged misconduct, and silenced victims. She cut him off. No more. Clarice stepped forward. The department has reviewed the footage, the racial profiling, the intimidation, the physical assaults. She handed him a letter, sealed, federal header. You're done, Your Honor. Henley's hands trembled. I have tenure. This is outrageous. Celeste leaned in. Tenure doesn't protect corruption. Ross stood abruptly. This is a witch hunt. She's a plant, an activist. She's not even licensed to practice in this district. Celeste turned. That was the moment. She reached into her jacket, slow, deliberate, and pulled out a badge. Not a press pass, not a lawyer's ID, but a Federal Judiciary Commission tag. With her full name, Hahn Celeste Dora Monroe, U.S. Circuit Judge, Southern District Court of Appeals. Ross's mouth went dry. Clarice smiled for the first time all day, just slightly. You shaved the head of a federal judge, she said. You laid hands on a sitting member of the appellate bench, added another agent stepping in from the side. And now, Celeste continued, you will answer for it. Ross stumbled backward, knocking over a bench. Henley's voice cracked. This has to be a mistake. Celeste's voice dropped. No mistake. She turned toward the gallery. This courtroom is under federal receivership. Effective immediately, I will assume temporary control. All proceedings are paused pending full investigation. Murmurs rippled through the room, shock, disbelief, applause. Darnell stood, silent, in awe. Clarice walked over to Ross, held out a pair of cuffs. Deputy Maynard, you're under arrest. Ross didn't move. So two more marshals stepped forward. His hands were yanked behind his back. No resistance, just stunned silence. The same hands that had once held scissors now trembled in cold metal. He was walked past the gallery, past the faces he had insulted, belittled, humiliated. Now every face stared back, not with fear, but satisfaction. Henley tried again. Celeste, please, think about what this does to our image. Celeste turned sharply. I'm thinking about your image. It's over. She stepped up to the bench, placed a new docket folder before her, and looked to the bailiff. Clear the docket. We're reopening case number 4421, Mr. Victor Salazar. The teenage boy stood again, confused. You're not going to jail, Victor, she said. You're going to be heard. The boy nodded, blinking rapidly. Outside the courthouse, reporters had already begun to gather. Word had spread like fire. A local blogger had posted a video clip, 30 seconds of Ross being cuffed. 50,000 views in less than an hour. And in the center of that firestorm, Celeste Monroe, no longer anonymous. No longer silent. The woman they tried to humiliate in open court was now writing the new rules. After the hearing adjourned, Darnell followed her into the hallway. He didn't speak at first, just walked beside her. Then finally, you planned all of this, didn't you? She looked at him. Yes, he smiled. That was the cleanest takedown I've ever seen. She stopped walking, looked him straight in the eye. I wasn't looking for revenge, she said. I was looking for accountability, and I don't miss. The doors opened behind them. Reporters rushed in. Microphones flew forward. Judge Monroe, can we ask, is it true you went undercover? What happens to the cases handled by Henley and Ross? She held up one hand. I will speak, she said, in court, where justice belongs. And then she walked past them all. No fear, no anger, just purpose. The same purpose that brought her back to Charleston after 15 years. The same purpose that kept her silent while they cut her hair, shoved her aside, treated her like less, because she knew. She always knew that the robe would fit her better. A week later, the sign above courtroom B12 changed. Federal observation in effect. Inside, it looked the same. Same oak benches, same faded flags, same marble columns that once made injustice look official. But something was different. The chair behind the bench wasn't empty anymore. Celeste Monroe sat there, black robe, composed posture, eyes that had seen too much and still chose justice. Next case, she said calmly. One by one, names were called. And this time, no one was mocked. No one was humiliated. No one was touched without consent. She listened, carefully, deliberately, and when she spoke, her voice was low but unshakable. You will not be silenced in this courtroom. Across the city, Ross Maynard sat in a holding cell, denied bail, awaiting trial for civil rights violations, assault, in obstruction of justice. His name was trending, but not how he wanted. Memes, hashtags, TikToks looping his arrest. He had become the very thing he mocked, a spectacle. Meanwhile, Judge Henley quietly resigned. The letter was dry, formal, without apology. But it didn't matter. He was gone. His cases, over 400, were under review. Some would be reopened, others dismissed, because Celeste wasn't just replacing him, she was undoing him. In the lobby, a woman waited. The same older woman from the beginning, the one with the manila envelope, and the son locked up for 6 months without trial. Celeste approached her personally. "He'll be home by the weekend," she said, handing her a copy of the release order. The woman burst into tears. She tried to say thank you. Celeste just smiled. "No need. You already paid enough." Outside, news cameras waited. They wanted a soundbite, a headline, a quote. Celeste gave them something else. "A courtroom is not a kingdom. It is not a stage. It is not a place to perform power," she said. "It is where the law meets the soul of a nation. And if that soul is broken, the law must answer." Flashbulbs went off. Reporters shouted follow-ups. But she had said what mattered, and she turned away. In the days that followed, praise poured in. Civil rights leaders called her the face of modern accountability. Survivors sent letters, photos, stories. Some came to court just to watch her rule because seeing someone like her in that seat meant they were seen too. And Darnell? He got promoted, not because of pity, but because he did the right thing when it counted. Now he sat beside her each day, still learning, still watching, still remembering what justice looked like when it walked in, with short hair and no fear. At the end of her first full week, Celeste stayed late. The courtroom was empty again. Lights low, silence thick. She walked down from the bench, picked up a broom from the janitor's closet. She swept the same floor where her hair once fell. Each pass was quiet, intentional, not just cleaning, claiming, because sometimes power doesn't shout. It remembers and reclaims. She was never just a victim. She was never just a woman in a hoodie. She was the law, and she just reminded them who it really belongs to.